Nobody's had an iconic crypto native character, and so pairing the vision of how do we create Web3's Disney or crypto's Disney is we're actually, for the first time, I think, creating a real trustworthy product in the meme coin category. I mean, today it's the 5th biggest meme coin, but it's the most popular, most impressioned, the biggest and best NFT project. It is the biggest and best, meme coin and meme token, yet only Doge and Pengu have ETFs picked up by the CBOE. I know it's where it's going because I think the people listening will come to the same conclusion that I've come to, which is this is obvious.
오늘 모신 분은 루카넷츠. 그는 전 세계적으로 유명한 NFT 프로젝트인 펍지펭귄의 대표입니다. 현재 웹3, 디지털 IP, 밈코인 등에서 독보적인 브랜드 전략을 펼치며 NFT 업계 성장의 중심에 있죠. 그는 크립토 최고의 밈 브랜드 메이커로 평가받고 있습니다. 하지만 그의 야망은 시작되지 않았다라는 생각이 듭니다. 그는 2022년 4월 752억, 약 250만 불의 펍지펭귄 IP 전체를 인수했고 이때 NFT 시장은 침체기였습니다. 22년도에 진행됐던 NFT는 무려 96%나 실패했죠. 결국 수많은 러그풀로 인한 NFT 투자자들의 시체가 한가득 쌓이게 됐고 그럼에도 펍지펭귄은 22년 인수 후 재브랜딩으로 성공시켰습니다. 그래서 지금 펍지는 밈코인, IP 시장 혁신의 한 가운데 서 있고 미국 월가 진출을 노리고 있죠. 나아가 그는 앞으로 밈코인의 전도사, 마스코트가 될 것입니다. 오늘 저희가 나눌 얘기는 여러분이 꼭 한번 들어봐야 할 내용들이라 자부합니다. 먼저 루카넷츠가 어떤 사람인지, 다음으로 그의 야망은 어디서 왔는지, 그리고 중학교 시절 배낭에서 버거킹 샌드위치를 꺼내 판매하던 것부터 가정용 보안 장비 제조업체인 링에서 상자를 포장하던 그가 어떠한 노력으로 지금의 결과까지 이어질 수 있는 노력을 할 수 있었는지 하나하나 이야기 나눠보고자 합니다. 자, 이러한 흐름 속에서 트럼프 정부가 집권한 이래 근 1년간 코인 시장은 크게 성장했습니다. 그래서 지금 이 영상을 시청하시는 모든 분들, 남녀노소 불문, 거기다 코인 투자를 한 번도 안 해보셨을 분들 역시 결국 이런 궁금증은 있으실 겁니다. 내 노동의 시간을 녹슬지 않는 그릇에 담으려면 뭘 선택해야 하지? 그렇다면 이 팟캐스트는 꼭 들어보셔야 할 겁니다. 자, 그럼 이제 루카가 무슨 얘기를 하는지 직접 들어보시죠. 니코인아나. 모두가 도망치던 겨울 250만 불로 펍지를 통째로 샀던 그날에 공포를 뚫고 나가게 만든 당신만의 확신이 무엇이었을까요?
I think for us, when we bought Pudgy Penguins, we believed in a couple things. I think the first one is we believed that the Pudgy Penguin IP was magical. And what I mean by this is when you see the Pudgy Penguin for the first time, it does something emotionally that I think is super meaningful and impactful for people who see it. And when building a brand, you have to think to yourself, how are you going to beat and compete with a Pokemon or a Hello Kitty? And to me, an IP needs that magic. And so for me, Pudgy Penguins had it. And that was probably the biggest thing for us when we decided to buy the project as to why we bought it. The second one was understanding who is a part of the Pudgy Penguin community. So the Pudgy Penguin community, I think, consists of some of the most affluent, important, and powerful people in crypto. There isn't a billionaire or a major founder within crypto that doesn't own or have exposure to the Pudgy Penguin ecosystem. And so when you combine this prolific, iconic, cute IP that is the Penguin with what I think is one of the most successful and powerful internet communities in the world, I think you then have something that creates opportunity for huge success. And so I think for us, we also leaned into the fact that we were elite brand builders. I think prior to us coming into Pudgy Penguins, we had seen multiple, multi-$100 million consumer product brands. And it seemed really clear to us that building the same way that people have built Pokemon or again Hello Kitty, but bringing that into I think Web3 and crypto, I think had never been done before. And so pairing the vision of how do we create Web3's Disney or crypto's Disney with cute magical penguin IP, with a fluent community full of billionaires and millionaires and founders of the highest caliber, I think gave us the conviction to buy the project and ultimately build it up into this point.
당시에 250만 불로 인수를 했던 펭구. 사실은 벽이 좀 많았습니다. 그럼에도 불구하고 지금처럼 글로벌 브랜드로 자리매김할 수 있었던 그런 이유가 좀 궁금한데요. 성공의 핵심 전환점이라든지 아니면 전략 이런 것들이 무엇이었다고 생각하실까요?
I think the turning point for us, or at least the big moment for us, was probably a couple things. I think the first one was Walmart and Target. So for those who are not familiar, <silence> Penguins is in over 10,000 retailers across the world. We're going to do about $60 million in revenue this year just on physical products that we sell through these retailers. And that was a huge turning point. Walmart taking a brand like us, putting it basically in the front of the store. In America, Walmart is the biggest retailer in America, but I also think the world. And they put us right in the front of every single Walmart. And that was, I think, a big needle mover for us. The second one was, I think, our social momentum. So we have every single day, Ł지펭귄 gets about 900 million to 1 billion views and impressions on the IP. And that is something that basically has transcended across all borders. Whether you're in Asia, America, Europe, Russia, everyone has seen the Ł지펭귄, and that would probably be the second. The third one has been, I think, our partnerships. Obviously, as you know, we have a partnership with Lotte, with Line Friends. We have another amazing partnership that we're going to announce here, probably when this airs, with a company called Bearbrick, which is really culturally iconic. And we've also done, collaborations with some of the biggest brands over in the US. And I think that has been huge for us. So I think those would probably be the three things: Walmart, Target, 10,000 retailers, the social impressions, and then the collaborations. When you think about it, in crypto, there's nothing like it. We have memes, we have, community coins, there's NFTs, and I think everyone agrees that culture in crypto is big, but nothing's actually really embodied it or done it like Ł지펭귄 or is on the trajectory that we're on. And so I think those three things have been really meaningful for us. And I think the culmination of everything that we've done over at Ł지펭귄 has kind of put us in a position, honestly, a sphere that frankly nobody's ever been in or has done before. When you look at Doge or Bored Apes or CryptoPunks in the past, nothing has achieved the true breakthrough, real mass market success that Ł지펭귄 has. No one's achieved, I think, the revenue that we have. No one has achieved, I think, the borderless phenomenon that I think we've created. And I think people this cycle are really seeing that and believing that. And that's why I think we've garnered so much support amongst the industry.
중학교 때 가방에서 버거킹 샌드위치를 꺼내서 팔고 또 경비업체인 링에서 택배 포장 업무를 했던 이 루카의 인생을 많은 시청자들도 모르실 것 같고 저도 또 몰랐거든요. 지금의 루카를 있게 한 이 핵심은 어떤 걸까요?
Yeah, so one sentence is probably too short. I'll give a 10-second background for the audience. I grew up homeless with my mom and my brother, 14 places in 10 years. I ended up actually dropping out of high school to help my mom pay the bills. And I think my mantra when I was a teenager was really, don't be the victim, don't make excuses, never give up. And if you believe in something, fight for it. I think one of the biggest principles that I was able to captivate personally as I grew older was to compete and to win. And so I very much look at my personal life through that lens. I look at my professional life through that lens. Everything that we do at Ł지펭귄, and for me personally, is to win. It's to be the best. And there's no reason and no excuse for us not to accomplish our goals. And I think my background and my childhood helped me shape and create those core values.
펍지펭귄은 전체 토큰 물량의 절반을 커뮤니티 에어드랍에 분배를 해줬습니다. 이렇게 대규모의 이 에어드랍이 단순한 이벤트를 넘어서 실제 홀더들한테 구체적인 이익이라든지 장기적인 가치를 가지고 왔다라고 보시는지요?
It's a great question. Ł지펭귄 on December 16th, 2024 did the biggest airdrop per capita in crypto of all time. It was the 8th biggest airdrop ever. It was the biggest airdrop on Solana ever. And we basically gave $1.5 billion to people. 25% of that was given to the Ł지펭귄 community, and the rest was given to everybody else. And it was really important that when we launched the Pengu token, that the Pengu token's origin story was that of generosity and was that of prosperity. Ł지펭귄 NFTs have a Eastern lore in their collection account in the sense that there's only 8,888 Ł지펭귄 NFTs. For the Pengu token, there's 88,888,888 288,000. And that symbolism, I think, was super important to us because if we were going to honor what I think those numbers represented, we were going to have to give to people in a way that had never been done before. And I think our intention for Pengu was always, how do we build the biggest and best meme coin? And so today, Doge is the biggest meme coin by market cap. But for Pengu to beat it, I felt like its origin story needed to be prolific. It needed to be iconic. And doing an airdrop that big was something that nobody in crypto had ever done before. And I felt like really told the story that was the story of Pengu. 콴지펭귄's story, even before my time, was that of a project and an IP that rose and then fell, and like a phoenix from the ashes came back. It is very much crypto's underdog story, and it is very much the IP and the brand, and today the token of the people. Something we've always embodied over at 콴지펭귄's was we're for the people, by the people. We never extracted, we never minted from our community. All we've done is give, and it was really important that Pengu embodied that same ethos and that same mantra. And a lot of people in crypto, again, they want to keep the supply tight. They really go against, giving away that many tokens because they think, people will just sell and they'll move on to the next. But I ultimately think the greatness of Pengu, the greatness of the 콴지펭귄 story will be solidified by the generosity of that airdrop. And I believe in karmic retribution. I believe in helping people and they will reciprocate that value. We changed millions of people's lives with that airdrop in a way that I think very few people or companies in the history of companies have ever experienced. And I think our success and our rebound is a perfect testament to, I think, how much people appreciate and love the 콴지펭귄 because of how much it has benefited other people. I really believe in just giving, and if we continue to give and people continue to love us, that's how you become the internet's Mickey Mouse. That's how you become the Web3 of Disney, and that's how you become a new cultural phenomenon, the likes of which I think crypto's never seen. And so it was risky. A lot of people, I think, criticized us at one point for how big the airdrop was, but I'm a firm believer that if you help people, they will help you, and that's the story of the 콴지펭귄 airdrop.
이런 에어드랍이 단발성 이벤트인지 아니면 장기 보유자 가치 그리고 커뮤니티 강화로 이어졌는지 좀 데이터로 우리가 보여질 수 있는 성과가 있나요?
It's a great question again. My take on airdrops is this. If you have a product that people know and love and that people respect, airdrops are very meaningful for long-term value creation. I think Pengu is an example of this. I think Hyperliquid's a perfect example of this. I think there's a couple tokens within crypto that are perfect examples of this. And I kind of look at tokens in my mind as like the hyper-financialization. The hyper-financialization of things with high integrity only helps and supports the cause. The hyper-financialization of things with low integrity only hurts the cause. And so when you airdrop and you are a brand or a project or a protocol that is high integrity, that you think can stand on its own, it will always come back and it will only create goodwill and loyalty within your community. But if you don't have a good product or you don't have a good protocol or you don't have a good brand, an airdrop is really just the beginning of the end. And so it really just determines what bucket of crypto project you're in. Are you a high integrity crypto project or a low integrity crypto project? I think the data for us and my stance on how I look at our brand and our project is I put distribution over everything. And so I think the distribution and having as many people aligned as possible is only a good thing and can never be a bad thing as long as you, again, are a high integrity crypto project. And so the data points for us is we have a huge on-chain holder base. I think when you look at 콴지펭귄's Pengu, it has one of the biggest holder bases in all of crypto, and yet it's only an 8-month-old token. The airdrop is a huge reason for that. Everybody loves 콴지펭귄's and Pengu. And again, it's partly because of the brand that we've created, but when you basically give as many tokens as we gave away, it's really hard to hate us. And so you can't really quantify that on chain, but I think if you kind of put your finger to the wind and you ask people and you say, hey, what's your opinion on 콴지펭귄's Pengu? Everyone has a positive opinion on it. And when you look at tokens and how tokens succeed, I think a lot of people overthink it. It comes down to supply and demand. And in a world where everyone loves a certain project, it makes it really easy to create demand. And so we'll do things like the ETF or we'll ring the NASDAQ bell and everyone will talk about us and nobody's going to be upset that 콴지펭귄's succeeding. Everyone actually wants us to succeed. They're rooting for it because because we help them. And so it's not a metric that you can easily see on a Dune dashboard, but it's a metric, an emotional metric that I think has paid dividends for us, and I think will continue to pay dividends, not only for us, but for the entire community who's aligned with Pudgy Penguins. And so I think it's nothing but a bond strengthener, again, as long as you're a high integrity project that has real mind share, real dominance, and real success within its category. In our case, Pudgy Penguins is, the biggest and best NFT project. It is the biggest and best, meme coin and meme token. And I think everybody has come to the point where I think everyone kind of agrees with that statement.
퍼지펭귄은 지금 시장에 얼마나 퍼져 있나요?
Yeah, so this is one of, I think, our most meaningful things that we've done over at Pudgy Penguins Pengu. And it's important to just kind of backtrack and understand the ethos, right? Like, Pengu is the people's coin. It's for everyone. And one of the things that we realized was a little broken with current coins was the accessibility of crypto is not as, or specific tokens is not as accessible as I think most people think. And so a big strategy for us over the last 6 months has been to make Pudgy Penguins Pengu the most accessible token in crypto. And today I can tell you guys confidently, there is not 15 tokens in crypto that are more easily accessible than Pudgy Penguins Pengu. Whether it's Robinhood, Revolut, Hyperliquid Perps or Hyperliquid Spot, Bullish, we just announced one of the great publicly traded crypto companies, institutional desks in America just listed us, Rain in the UAE, BitCub in Turkey and Thailand, Upbit, BitThumb in Korea, Binance, OKX, Bybit. But every exchange everywhere, eToro, one of the big ones, we're working right now, the alphas, PayPal and Venmo. We want to be the most accessible cryptocurrency in the world. It's going to be hard to beat Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum because they've been around so long. But outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum and maybe Solana, I'm very confident that Pudgy Penguins Pengu, over the course of the next year, will have the most accessibility to retail audiences in the world. And today, we're easily a top 15 token in terms of accessibility. And it's something that I think a lot of founders underestimate, because when you get excited about Pudgy Penguins ringing the NASDAQ bell with Van Eck, when you get excited about the CBOE picking up the Pengu ETF, most people, when they have huge announcements, don't have the listings necessary for that demand to convert. And again, tokens and most things in the financial markets come down to supply and demand. Yet crypto is not as easily accessible as people think. And so being available on Robinhood with, I think, 50 million United States users, Revolut, I think, has 100 million people in Europe. These places that most crypto founders don't go and don't have access to, eToro, I think, has 400 million users. We're going and making sure that Pudgy Penguins is the most accessible. And again, in the spirit of the airdrop, in the spirit of the idea that we want to be, the internet's Mickey Mouse and, the mascot in the face of crypto, well, the mascot in the face of crypto has to be easily purchasable. And a lot of founders don't focus on this for some reason, but we did. And I'm proud and honored to say that you won't find 15 tokens in crypto that have more exchange listings and accessibility to retail and institutional investors than Pudgy Penguins Pengu.
밈코인은 원래 재미, 욕망 이런 것에서 시작된다라는 의견들이 좀 굉장히 많은데 이게 또 어떻게 신뢰할 수 있는 가치로 좀 변모된다고 생각하시는지 궁금합니다.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think one of the things that we want to do at Pudgy Penguins is we're trying to combine this fun and exciting category that is memes, but also trying to pair it with a successful company and brand. And that combination has never been done before. Nobody's had an iconic crypto native character and an also super successful growing year-over-year business. I think to create trust in memes, something like Pudgy Penguins has to succeed and break through. When you look at it holistically, I think a big concern of mine with meme coins was you have these tokens with huge valuations, 10, 15, 20, 30, $40 billion. Remember SHIB, a couple of years ago was worth $45 billion, but there was no meat on the bone. There was nothing real behind the scenes. When you look at Pudgy Penguins, it has an enterprise value that I think matches the token's value, and as the enterprise value continues to grow, then I assume that the token will grow with it. I think you have to be able to look under the hood of not only our project, but a lot of projects, all of the projects in the space, and see something real. The beauty of Pudgy Penguins is, you walk into a local donkey in Tokyo, you see Pudgy Penguins. You walk into a 7-Eleven, you see Pudgy Penguins. You walk into a Walmart and a Target, you see Pudgy Penguins. You go on Instagram and you see this account with millions of followers and you see Pudgy Penguins. Messaging online or Kakao or on WhatsApp or iMessage and you see pudgy penguins. The beauty about what we're building is we're actually, for the first time, I think, creating a real trustworthy product in the meme coin category. And it's clear, meme coins are only going to get bigger. It has huge PMF amongst Gen Z and Gen Alpha. The younger generation loves meme coins. Yet most of them, if not all of them, outside of Pudgy Penguin's Pengu, are arguably not that trustworthy because when you look under the hood, there's not much there, right? And with us, we're in DC, we're in Washington, DC, we're actually writing legislation and our official government advisors of the United States, government in terms of being able to shape legislation around the category. We have huge revenue numbers that we're growing year over year. We have games with millions of downloads. I mean, we just launched Pudgy Party and it just crossed 1 million downloads in just a couple weeks. So it's really easy to kind of look under the hood as to what we're doing at Pudgy Penguins and be like, yes, this is what meme coins should be. This is what culture and crypto should be. And I'm really proud to be leading the charge there because to me it kind of feels obvious. Like, yeah, obviously if you have a really big token worth billions of dollars, you should be, partnering with Lotte and Line and all these big companies. You should have movies and TV shows and video games. It's obvious. I think we all would agree, right? That these huge valuations yield huge opportunities. But a lot of these companies, if not all of them, can't fit into their valuation. So I actually think just the pure principle of the Pudgy Penguin organization is built around building trustworthiness with our community and with potential speculators.
루카, 당신이 보는 이 밈코인에 대한 시각이 궁금합니다.
Meme coins to me have an opportunity to invade the hearts and minds of everyday people in a way that no other category within crypto can. And so crypto, I think, is a hyper financialized asset class. It's on 24/7. You're always trading it. You're always experiencing it. But very few things in crypto invade the heart and the mind. And it's important to note that though the financial elements are always important, the emotional elements, I think, are just as important. And I think there's very few companies in crypto, if any, like Pudgy Penguins, that invade the hearts and minds of everyday people, that bring the family together, that bring women into crypto, which I think is so important. I mean, we saw how big Labubus were and are, and I think a lot of people look at us as like the digital Labubu. And I think the potential is these are the next generation brands and IPs. Disney and Warner Brothers, I have so much respect for those companies, but it's getting old. It's getting stale. There's no innovation. The young people are not gravitating towards those companies the way that they once were. And they're gravitating to things like this in a way that I think is extremely disruptive. And so what do I think the future of meme coins are? I think the future of meme coins are brand, their IP, their culture. They're bringing the family together. They're bringing women into the space. They're bringing a new dynamic to crypto that we've never seen. And every new emergent market and category like this needs to transcend just the 18 to 50-year-old male, which I think crypto does a good job of. But the TAM, the opportunity, I think is so much bigger than that. And I think the companies and if you look at just the history of the internet, the companies that have been able to bring everybody from all walks of life have seen huge upside. I think honestly the biggest upside as to who can speak to all audiences and not just one. And so our vision is to pioneer what I think meme coins should be, which right now, or I think prior to us, meme coins were very much, funny images that people rallied behind with communities and narratives. I think, Pudgy Penguin's Pengu should be that, but it also should be everything else, right? And how can Pudgy Penguin's Pengu go and beat Hello Kitty and go and beat Pokemon and be bigger than them? And then at the same time, have everybody participate in that growth and that financial upside by owning the token and owning the NFTs. I think it's a story that we're gonna look back at, and I think many people will look at this interview 5 years from now and be like, wow, it was ahead of its time, but I know it's where it's going because I think the people listening will come to the same conclusion that I've come to, which is this is obvious. This should be a thing, and it's not, but Pudgy Penguins is gonna make sure that it is, that this is the new era and narrative for how meme coins are being built.
퍼지가 밈으로 무엇을 상징하나요?
Yeah, to me, Pudgy just symbolizes what I think we went over the last couple of minutes. It's for the people, by the people. It's a cute penguin. Everyone loves penguins. I mean, penguins are just a meme of a character, right? People love penguins the same way they love dogs and cats. It's funny, it's expressive, it's kind, it's uplifting. It's loving. Its function as a brand is to make people feel good. I just want to make people happy. And if I make them happy, I know they'll buy our products, they'll come and join our community, they'll become holders of the token, they'll become holders of the entire ecosystem. And so I think, in simple terms, I would say it is a symbol of the underdog. It is a symbol of generosity. It's a symbol of prosperity. And it's a symbol of doing good and being good in the world. And it's cute and it's funny and it's lovable and everyone loves it. And it also has lots of ways that the meme has now percolated throughout the internet. But that's a lot of the doing of the community and less doing of myself.
지금 전 세계는 K-pop, K-pop 데몬 헌터스, K-컬처 모든 게 굉장히 유행입니다. 이제 한국의 참여를 좀 고려한 K-컬처 로드맵 같은 것이 있는지 궁금합니다.
I'll answer the question by first saying I think the Korean audience watching this should be incredibly proud of their country and their impact on culture around the world. I grew up in Los Angeles, which is one of the cultural hubs. And I can tell you, after being in Korea for the last couple of years, where I think culture was once conceptualized and inceptualized out of the West, I think it's now coming out of the East, and specifically Korea. I mean, K culture is taking over the entire world, and we are aware of it. And even so, I've been K-popped, and I think it's this hoodie specifically, I think, is an embodiment of, I think, just what's going around, around the globe. I think the globe is being K-popped. And so we are taking this super seriously. I mean, as a cultural IP brand, it's important for us to know where the trend is going. And it's very clear that the K culture is taking over the world, and Ł지펭귄's Pengu needs to be a part of it. I can say we have some huge collaborations with K culture relevant brands that I won't mention because I can't, but you guys will see it in the coming months. You will see big activations from Ł지펭귄s. We're going to do, I guess the alpha is we're going to do a Ł지펭귄 Pengu Cafe, I think in Gangnam.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because we just understand that if you are not a key pillar in K culture in the next couple of years, you're going to be left behind. And it's really interesting to say as a Western person, because I think, again, the West has done so well over the last decade or two, really curating culture. That paradigm has shifted very much to Korea. And so you guys should be proud. And it's been that way for a long time, but to me, it's almost like a world domination now. K-pop's always been big, and I grew up, Koreatown in Los Angeles, I'm very familiar, but it's dominating the world now in a way that I think it hasn't dominated the way, at least in my lifetime, has dominated the way that I've seen it now. So you guys should be proud and expect many, many things with Ł지펭귄s and K culture over the next coming months and years.
퍼치펭귄이 말하는 디즈니 같은 미래가 펭구를 가지고 있는 사람들에게 어떠한 이익으로 돌아올 수 있을까요?
A great question. I think from our side, what does it mean to create Disney and Web3? I think the first one is understanding a couple things. Pengu is our main character and is our Mickey Mouse. And so when we become Disney, the Mickey Mouse of our Disney is Pengu. And everybody has a chance to own a piece of Mickey Mouse, in this case, Ł지펭귄s. The second side of it is when you look at what does it actually mean to become Disney, from our perspective, we need to do movies, we need to do TV shows, we need to do theme parks, we need to make amazing products, we need to build awesome video games that people can love and enjoy. And each one of those verticals has amazing ways to give access and utility and benefits to our community members. Maybe we do Pengu Winterland amusement park one day, and all the NFT holders and token holders can get in for free or have special access. Maybe with our Pudgy Party game that we just released, maybe all the special edition skills and skins can only be purchased and used via Pengu, or maybe you get free access to certain maps or activations that are only available in Pengu. Maybe there's certain products. For those who are not familiar, you should check out Ł지펭귄 products on eBay. We have products that we've sold for $200 that are reselling for $5,000, $6,000. Maybe we give that access only to token holders. I think for us, it's really easy to work backwards once you're successful in terms of bringing value to your community. I think a lot of crypto founders spend too much time focused on trying to work backwards before they've achieved success. I think my goal is when Pudgy Penguins is this generation's Pokemon and Hello Kitty, it's super easy for us to bring value to all facets of our community. But it doesn't matter if we are not that next generation Pokemon or Hello Kitty. And so I think our major focus right now is just how do we actually be, Web3's Disney? How do we actually be, Web3 Sanrio? How do we actually do that? And then as we hit certain milestones, work backwards. A perfect example of this is we launched Pudgy Party. It has 1 million downloads in 2.5 weeks. There is going to be in-game Pengu utility, but right now there's not. Why? Because I don't want to confuse the users on certain utilities and metrics. I just want to make a fun game that has tens of millions of people that are playing it, that are loving it. And then once I have them in the game, you'll see in a couple weeks, Pengu utility, buy skin, use your Pengu in a way that is advantageous and beneficial for you. But I think too many people focus on the utility first rather than the success first, when once you have success, it's really easy to work backwards. And so that's kind of how I look at it, and hopefully that gives you some clarity.
실물 매출이 단순 회사 수익이 아니라 어떻게 토큰 펭구의 가치 보유, 이런 매력들로 이어질 수 있을까요?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. We're a little less public about it because I think we do it when we think it's necessary or when we think it's advantageous. Some protocols in crypto just buy back and burn the token every single day. Our business is a little bit different because, we ship product, and then, most people who are listening to this who are familiar with retail and consumer products know that you don't get paid until 90 days after they're in retail, and then maybe it's actually 120 days, and they're called net 90. And so in the States, revenue that I might make today is actually revenue that I generated 6 months ago. I'm proud to say that throughout this year, we've spent just about $20 million buying the token over the course of a couple months through the lows. I think right now my main focus is to spend money and resources marketing the character and the brand, because that translates to the token success in a really meaningful way. And so I think there's really two sides to how we allocate company revenue. I think on one side is how do we make Pengu deflationary and tell a deflationary story? Our goal for the token is to be the biggest meme coin in the world and to beat Doge. Doge is actually inflationary, for those who are not familiar. It inflates about $3 to $5 million a day. And so my goal, to beat and to, tell that story as to why Pengu is better, we do want to be deflationary, and we are deflationary. I think this year we burnt 13% of the token supply. We bought just between $15 and $20 million worth of the token as a company. And then we're also taking the other side of the fence, which is how do you just grow the business? The most value that we can bring to our community members, to our holders, to our collectors, is not how many tokens we can buy and burn or buy and hold. It's really how close to Pokemon or how much bigger than Pokemon can we take this? Because if you look at the total market cap of just Pokemon cards, it's already 10x or 20x the market cap of Pengu. And that's just done through demand and through awareness. And I actually think, and I haven't brought this up on this interview yet, but I actually think what the Pudgy Penguin team does best, and for those who really follow our team, you'll come to the same conclusion. Most people would agree that we're the best marketers in crypto, right? We have nobody in crypto is getting the impressions and has the mind share that Pudgy Penguins gets day over day, both in Web3 and most importantly in Web2. And so our goal is just to continue to feed that machine and to really just make this a prolific and iconic brand. Because if we become, and when we become, this generation's Pokemon, today's price is not that price. And that's obviously what I think a lot of our holders and speculators are going to just love to be a part of. And so it's dual faceted. I really play it by year. If I feel like the token's underpriced or the ecosystem's underpriced, we'll buy it, right? I'm of the belief that, founders and companies should be buying their stock or their tokens when they think it's mispriced. And we did, right? And, when we think the market's in our favor, I think our number one objective is how do we make the penguin the most popular penguin possible? How do we take over the timeline and take over the industry? And, a lot of that stuff is used, via marketing dollars and spending money on the right partnerships and the right activations. And so those are the two buckets that we kind of play in.
월마트 등에서 5천만 불 이상의 실물 매출이 나타나는 것으로 아는데 단순히 회사 수익이 아니라 토큰 펭구의 가치로 어떻게 이어질 수 있을까요?
Yeah, one of the things I'm most proud about is since we took over Ł지펭귄's 3.5 years ago, we've basically been doubling and tripling revenue year over year. The beauty about being a self-sustainable business in crypto is it allows us and puts us in a position to put our community first. And with the revenue that we're making and projected to make in the near future, it allows us, again, not only the opportunity to buy the token when we feel like the token is underpriced, but more importantly, I think gives us the opportunity to scale and make the brand bigger, right? Movies cost tens of millions of dollars. TV shows cost tens of millions of dollars. Video games cost tens of millions of dollars. And these are all things that 훠지펭귄's is doing and is going to do and that you guys are going to see here shortly. And so the more successful the business becomes, the more iconic and prolific and well adopted the penguin becomes, which then segues to the rest of the community on the Web3 side in a really big way. In 2025, ݹ지펭귄's is probably going to do about $55 to $60 million in revenue. In 2026, our goal is to do $110 to $120 million in revenue.
펭구가 다른 밈코인들보다 안정적인 자산이라고 생각하십니까?
Which is, there's really meat on the bone here, right? And I think like when you look at other meme coins, what is there to feel? What is there to see? What revenue is it making? What is the actual engine under the hood? And unfortunately, if you look under the hood of pretty much every meme coin, you don't really see much. If you look under the hood of 콴지펭귄's, I think it'll take you a very long time to see everything that's in that engine. And I think that's the difference between us and everybody else. And it just puts us in a little bit of a different category, rightfully so, than I think, other leaders within the category. And that's why I've just been such a firm believer that I think when you look at memes and culture in crypto, 콴지펭귄's is the bet to make. And I think there's no second best.
펭구를 장기적으로 보유하는 것이 유리하다고 보시는 이유가 뭘까요?
Yeah, when I look at 콴지펭귄's Pengu, one of the reasons why I'm so convicted in what we've been building is if you actually look at the mind share, the awareness, the impressions, the volume, every measurable metric shows that we are more relevant and more popular and have more momentum today than, incumbents like Doge and Shib. Doge is, worth, I think, close to $40 billion. Shiba, I think 7 or 8. And I think today Pengu sits at about two and some change. And Jeff Bezos said this really well, which was when your fundamentals are up and to the right, price is a lagging indicator. And it's clear to me that there's a couple assets within the meme coin category that are priced substantially higher than ؐ지펭귄's, yet the fundamentals around every meaningful measurable metric that could tell you if Pengu is winning or losing versus those incumbents is telling me that we're winning, and we're winning by a significant margin. And I've seen this a couple times in crypto, but price always catches up to the fundamentals, even if it's a lagging indicator. I mean, you just see, again, one interesting fact is you look at, Bitmine and Tom Lee, they're wearing their Pengu, and just Doge and Shiba just don't have that, right? We have celebrities, we have the biggest Ethereum holder in the world, the biggest founders, some of the biggest and most important, billionaires that have been here for the last couple of, last decade pioneering crypto, they're all aligned and supporting and wearing and championing the ؐ지펭귄 Pengu. And I think that just puts us in a situation that, frankly, nobody can compete with. And whether the prices reflect that today or not, I am confident that over the course of time, it's not if ؐ지펭귄's Pengu will be the biggest meme coin in the world, it's when. And one more point I just wanted to mention to you that I think is important for the audience to know is, I think look at Shiba and Doge's first year compared to Pengu. I think, those coins, Doge has been around for 10 years, Shiba's been around for about 4 or 5. And I think if you compare their first year to Pengu's first year, it's just so clear that we have so much more momentum. And I think if we continue on this path and continue on the growth that they ultimately went through and that we're going through, I think if you just kind of do the back-to-back comparisons, it's really clear to kind of see where Â지펭귄's and Pengu's destinies lies. And then it goes to a point that I'm sure you and I will talk about as well, which is just our institutional adoption. I mentioned it a second ago, but I think people are really underestimating the fact that Tom Lee, the biggest Ethereum holder in the world, one of the most prolific guys on CNBC and just in finance in general, is wearing and symbolizing and championing his Pengu to the world, and really understanding that I think he's doing that because he's speaking to Gen Z, he's speaking to Gen Alpha. He knows that it gets you more engagement and more awareness by wearing that Pengu PFP, as well as BitMine and the rest of the bunch. And so I think it's just, the signs are all there. And obviously I think we've had good price action. I think we've been one of the most well-performing altcoins of the last 6 months. But I still think there's a lot of things that are not priced in, maybe that being one of them. And I also think there's a discrepancy amongst, where Ł지펭귄's is just in the token rankings. I mean, today it's the 5th biggest meme coin, but it's the most popular, most impressioned, most transcendent IP out of them all today. And so again, back to my earlier point that price is a lagging indicator. It's also, I think, the 50th biggest token in the world. I promise you, there's many tokens above Ł지펭귄's Pengu that are not nearly as exciting or as important for crypto, and I am very confident that power law will work its way and that discrepancy will be cleared sooner rather than later.
최근 로빈후드 상장과 ETF 신청과 함께 월스트리트 같은 제도권에서도 인정하는 새로운 유형의 자산이라는 평가가 펭구 앞에 열려 있습니다. 이것이 펍지펭귄을 제도권 자산으로 끌어올리는 전환점이 될 수 있다고 보세요?
Institutional adoption and playing a role within the institutional landscape is probably our first or second biggest priority at Ł지펭귄's. I think this because there's a unique moment in time, specifically in America, where you have to move and you have to move now. And so in the last 6 months, we've done a couple things, and I'll name them out for you in terms of how we really try to push the needle towards institutional investors and really being able to speak to that TradFi audience. I think the first one is we have officially become government advisors to the administration, and we've been giving them input on legislation that they're crafting, specifically around the meme coin and cultural category within crypto. The second one is we had our filing for our ETF that then got picked up by the CBOE. And so this is super meaningful because outside of Doge, no other meme coin has the CBOE who has picked up the ETF exchange listing. And that's such a big signal to not only retail and institutional investors, but most importantly, TradFi. And I think that puts us also in a category where, again, we had mentioned this a second ago, but there's 5 meme coins that are bigger than Ł지펭귄's, yet only Doge and Pengu have ETFs picked up by the CBOE. I think that's telling somebody something, but I'll let the audience figure out what that means. The third one is we've been working in tandem with a lot of big institutional partners. We actually just announced this a couple of days ago, but Bullish featured us in their Q3 earnings report, going over how they believe that we are one of the great retail onboarders within the space, and how we're working together and how we're officially listed on the exchange. There's a fourth one that I can't mention exactly, but I think is going to be pretty special that I think the audience will see within the next coming weeks and months around us really moving the needle to pushing the institutional adoption for not only within the meme coin category, but just crypto in general. And so I kind of look at Ł지펭귄's as one of the leaders, if not the leader in culture in the space. And I think it's our responsibility as leaders and as I think one of the most credible cultural figures and companies within crypto and Web3 to go and leverage this credibility and to leverage our success to go and make sure that the institutional rails are open not only for the great DeFi protocols who are doing it now, but for meme and cultural products like Ł지펭귄's and others. And I don't take that responsibility lightly. And so there's 4 major initiatives that we're working on at Ł지펭귄's, 3 of which I mentioned. And we're going to continue to do everything possible to open the barriers or to break the barriers for people building similar things to us to get the institutional adoption they need.
몇 달 내로 나오는 큰 뉴스가 있다라고 계속 말씀을 하셨는데 저희한테 좀 힌트 주실 수 있을까요?
Yeah, so I think the alpha through the grapevine probably be, I think you're going to see something around our ETF before the year's over. And I think you're going to see multiple third-party Pengu treasury debts that I'm really excited to help support and to help. I think those are probably the 2 pieces of alpha. There's another one, but we gotta keep the alpha contained. Since I'm not in Korea often, I'll give you that.
펍지펭귄 토큰을 활용해서 만들고 싶은 미래 생태계 로드맵이 있나요?
Yes, the Pengu ecosystem roadmap to me is one that I think is super commingled with the success of the brand. And so for me to answer that question, I asked myself, what does the brand need to become? I think our big swing right now in front of us is we need to make <silence> 지펭귄's a franchise. We need to be in movie theaters around the world. We need to be in TV shows around the world. We need to be on your favorite streaming network, whether it's Netflix or Hulu or Peacock, whichever you guys listen or watch in your native region. We need to be on video game consoles, PlayStation, Xbox. We need to have mobile games and browser games that are transcendent, Pudgy Party and Pudgy World. We need to have collaborations with the world's biggest brands. We need to show up in ice cream shops, whether it's Haagen-Dazs or Baskin-Robbins. We need to be as culturally iconic as physically possible, and we need hundreds of millions of people to know and love the <silence> 지펭귄 brand. And I just kind of work backwards from there. With each activation, we integrate Pengu in some capacity. You guys will see this again. We just launched Pudgy Party, has 1 million downloads in 2.5, 3 weeks. You know, what you're gonna see shortly is little integrations of how you can sync the tokens and how you can kind of create that flywheel around this transcendent IP brand to benefit token holders. But our priority right now is making this a franchise and taking this thing from probably a community and a fan base of 30, 40 million people to a community and fan base of 500 million people, which is what I think we're gonna do over the next 18 to 24 months.
퍼치 커뮤니티를 한마디로 설명할 수 있는 잊을 수 없는 경험 같은 게 있을까요?
The Pudgy community. It's the best part. What can I say? I mean, I can say we wouldn't be here today without this community. I mean, it is such a diehard and passionate and loving group of people, super family oriented and super kind. I think kind is a really great word. I remember being stuck somewhere in the middle of Europe, not having a place to stay. A Pudgy community member said, "You can stay at my house." I thought that was really magical. I thought it was just me, maybe because I was the CEO early on, but I've heard hundreds of other stories of similar things. There isn't a city or country or state in the world that you can't go to where there isn't a Pudgy Penguin holder and that Pudgy Penguin holder won't take care of you. It's impossible to find. Maybe there might be one or two, but in general, there's a home for everybody in the Pudgy community with other community members. I mean, recently, just huge shout out to Aaron and Cheryl and the rest of the Pudgy Malaysia community, Ross, Jason, the rest of the crew, but they put a giant Pengu on Malaysia's biggest digital skyscraper. It was phenomenal. You know, we have builders from all across the world, Kit in Singapore, we have Brian here, our very own Jermaine, we have in the US, Kyle, Saucy, PP McGee. In the middle of the world, we have in the Middle East, we have Burko, we have Rookie, we have so many people across, I mean, I can't even name them. It'd almost be impossible for me to name them, but there's so many people around the world that I think are just absolutely phenomenal that really go above and beyond for this community. In Canada, we have Lei Win and the rest of the crew. Asia has been so strong for us and all the people, both that were in the community previously, still in the community, just really an absolute loving space for people to be a part of. And I encourage every holder, whether you're a Pengu holder or an NFT holder, you know, some people just buy assets just to buy them. I really encourage that if you're holding our assets in our ecosystem, to really try to be a part of the community. It's only going to open up doors, you know, whether you are wearing an NFT and you're looking for a job, you'd be surprised how much easier it is to get hired if you're wearing a Pengu PFP, or if you're trading amongst liquid funds or market makers, or you're in that part of the industry, you'd be surprised, but <silence> 지펭귄's Pengu can give you huge legs up. And we have another side of our community, which we call the PengPal Mafia. And so the PengPal Mafia is kind of a take on the PayPal Mafia. The PengPal Mafia is a group of holders that are building some of the most important protocols and companies in the world, whether it's, you know, the founders of crypto.com or Layer Zero. The entire Layer Zero team is <silence> penguins, and you'd be surprised how important Layer Zero is to the success of crypto, to Coinbase executives, to Nansen, to credit card providers. I think one of the biggest hyperliquid apps right now is Based app. We have FOMO, which I think is one of the great consumer apps today, Moonshot, another great consumer app. Jupiter Team, Xiong, I think, has a Pudgy Penguin PFP. Mike Novogratz, Tom Lee, Founders Fund, Joey from Founders Fund, and Bridget. The list is on and on. 1KX, Peter. You won't find an organization in crypto that is a top liquid fund, a top market maker, a top venture fund, or a top consumer application or protocol that doesn't have one person on the executive team that is not Pudgy Penguins aligned. And that's the beauty, right? Because if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a networker, if you're a deal maker, if you're somebody that is looking to expand their network, specifically within crypto founders and crypto entrepreneurship, you'd be surprised, but being Pudgy Penguin aligned actually creates synergies amongst pretty much every top executive or top executive group within the space that could be very meaningful if you know how to utilize it. And that's what makes, honestly, I think Pudgy Penguin so special. You know, if you rewind back to our high school and middle school days, if you go to a lunch table or the cafeteria, you want to sit at the cool kids' lunch table, right? You want to sit at the lunch table where everybody is doing something, where everyone's productive, where everyone's cool. And I really think that Pudgy Penguins is the cool kids' lunch table in crypto. Because when you align with Pudgy, when you align with the penguin and you become a penguin and you are your penguin and your penguin is you find a sense of belonging and alignment in what I think is one of crypto's, if not crypto's, most powerful and biggest community. And with all of that, I think it's a perfect time for all of you to join the huddle.
한국은 캐릭터 IP 강국이기도 합니다. 이번에 롯데, 현대카드와 긴밀하게 협업을 하셨던 걸로 알고 있는데요. 추가 협업이나 확장을 좀 기대해봐도 될까요?
It's a great question, and another place where I want to give, the Korean culture and the Korean community their flowers, because Pudgy Penguins, I think has just north of 100 licensing deals with companies all across the globe. I think working with our Korean partners has been some of the best experiences we've had just as professionals. So I think everybody listening should be super proud on just how Korean entrepreneurs and businessmen and women carry themselves. It's been a phenomenal experience. We did a collab product with Lotte, the collectibles, that were a huge success. I think the resale on those is probably 2-3x what the purchase price was. I think you're going to see more IRL activations with Lotte, more product activations, and it's a relationship that we want to continue to build. I think we look at Lotte as kind of like our Walmart in Korea, or a Walmart style partner. Walmart's just one of the biggest companies in America, and I think Lotte is the same here. With Line, I think you're going to see a bunch of different things, hopefully, but I know that we're making products in collaboration with their Mini-Me IP. I think you'll see those products in stores, hopefully some adverts and some advertisements, and some stickers and some more things with the actual Line app I'd be really excited about. And I think you're going to see, like I had mentioned, some IRL pop-ups with us. We're doing the Pudgy Penguin Cafe. Hopefully we could do that with one of our new Korean partners, maybe Hyundai, maybe not. But it's been really phenomenal to work with every Korean company that we've worked up until this point. And I can say that we have 2 more collaborations with major Korean companies that I think the world has yet to hear about. And I'm excited to bring those to market soon. But whether it's Lotte or Line or Hyundai, all 3 of those companies have been absolutely amazing to work with. And I think you're just going to see more of us working together. At least that would be my hope and ambition, with IRL, physical products, and hopefully some big digital activations and bringing them into our universe and into our world. Maybe you'll see some of that soon. Who knows?
향후 펍지가 이루고 싶은 최종 목표는 무엇인가요?
I think my goal and dream for Pudgy Penguins in the next 5 years is to make this the biggest net new IP to come out of the world of the last 25 years. I want us to become a globally recognized franchise. I want us to be a prolific icon both within Web3 and outside of Web3. And I want us to have a community of hundreds of millions of people. I want to be the biggest meme coin in the world. I want to be the biggest NFT in the world. And I want to pioneer and change how people have looked at NFTs and meme coins forever. Me personally, I just want to be a part of something great. And I think if Pudgy continues on its trajectory, if it continues hitting the milestones and achieving the goals that it's achieved over the last couple of years, I know that we will get there and that I will be a part of history and hopefully one of crypto's greatest founders ever. I think the crypto market is in for a huge paradigm shift. And I think everybody within the crypto industry should be extremely excited about what they've accomplished over the course of the last 10 years. However, I think it's really imperative that the next couple of years we see a lot of the things that we're working on through. And so, from my perspective, I think the best of crypto is yet to come. I think the world will run on stablecoins, and I think everybody who is listening to this today should be proud that they were early, because I think you won't be early for that much longer.